When Ava heard this, she became worried. "Madeline Crawford, what on earth are you saying?" "I'm serious." Madeline smiled lightly. She looked at the azure ocean in front of her, and the beautiful memories resurfaced in her head once again. "This is where Jeremy and I pledged our love to each other," she said before quickly correcting herself, "or rather, this is where my one-sided love began." Ava was stunned. Then, her brain registered what was going on. "So this is the place where you first met each other?" Madeline nodded and closed her eyes. The sunlight shone down on her round but bony face. "Back then, he told me, Linny, when we grow up, I'll take you as my bride," Madeline said before slowly reopening her eyes. Subsequently, tears escaped her eyes and silently rolled down her cheeks. Ava was furious. All men are liars. Jeremy knew how to lie to girls at such a young age. You even fell into his trap. "Yeah, I thought he was sincere. Not only did I think that, but I even thought that he was serious." "Maddie, just give up. That man is not worth your love," Ava advised. She felt sad at the thought of how invested Madeline was in him. However, Madeline smiled. "Ava, it has been 12 years. I can't let him go." Her love for him was bone deep. It was in her every breath. How could it be easy for her to just let him go? "So, you're willing to sacrifice your life for that man?" After Ava said that, an icy gust of wind howled, and its coldness spreaded throughout Madeline's heart. As long as he's happy. She had lost herself ever since she fell for him when she first saw him. "Maddie, I don't think I'll have the chance to give birth to the child." Madeline bent down and picked up a shell. Memories flooded her brain, and she smiled. "I won't have the chance to pester him anymore. He should end up happy. I'll be happy too because I'll be with my baby. I'll be buried in the sea with that beautiful memory forever and ever." Ava looked at Madeline. She did not know what to say. Ava still saw happiness in Madeline's face at a time like this. How stupid was she? How much did she love that heartless man to make her think that she would be happy even in death? After parting ways with Ava, Madeline went home. When she arrived at the door, she saw Daniel waiting for her. When he saw her, he walked over to her with a worried look on his face. "Maddie, why didn't you answer my calls? Are you okay?" Madeline was touched that Daniel was so concerned about her, but she had not forgotten what Jeremy had said to her. When she was about to say something, Jeremy appeared. He got out of the car. He was wearing all black and looked terrifying. "Daniel, we haven't seen each other for so many years, and you're still longing for my wife, huh?" His tone was mischievous, but it was obvious that he was being sarcastic. Madeline felt humiliated, and at the same time, angry for Daniel. "Dan and I are innocent. Mr. Whitman, please respect your wife and your old classmate." After she said that, she felt a cold air around her. "Wife? You still remember that you're my wife? Then why are you still talking with your old flame at my front door?" The man's question made Madeline weary. She did not want to explain herself anymore, but she did not want to involve Daniel in it. "Jeremy, I'll tell you once more. For the last time, I've only had one man my entire life and it's you." After she yelled at Jeremy hysterically, she turned around and ran back into the house. After a while, Jeremy entered the house as well. His face was dark, and there was a layer of ice on him. Madeline thought that Jeremy would humiliate her again. However, he said to her in an oddly calm manner, "Madeline, let's talk." Madeline was surprised by Jeremy's attitude. However, she did not try to flatter him like she used to. She calmly asked, "What do you want to talk about, Mr. Whitman?" Jeremy was unhappy with how Madeline was addressing him that way. "What did you call me? Is there any difference? You never pay attention to me anyway, Mr. Whitman." Jeremy frowned. After a few moments of silence, he said, "Mer's stomach is getting bigger and bigger. I want to give her status." Even though Madeline knew Jeremy would force her to divorce him one day, it still felt like a bolt from the blue now that it was happening. Madeline looked at the frigid man in front of her. She laughed in self-mockery. "What about me?" she asked. All of a sudden, she felt like she and the baby in her stomach were the biggest jokes in the world. Jeremy's intense and piercing gaze landed on Madeline's face. "If you remain obedient, we can stay this way." Madeline burst out laughing after being dazed. "Mr. Whitman, are you saying that you want your legally wedded wife to become your mistress? You want that shameless mistress to be in my position, is that it?" After she said that, Jeremy's face turned so dark that it looked horrifying. Madeline felt a pang of pain in her heart. She bit her lip and clenched her fists. "Jeremy, unless I die, I won't let that two-faced B***tch Meredith get her way." After Madeline said that, she turned around and went upstairs to lock herself in her room. Her heart was beating frantically. She was so scared that she would beg him to not divorce her if she were slightly slower. After all, she had never changed her wish. As long as she could stay with him, she would be happy and satisfied. However, his heartlessness was way beyond her imagination despite him having promised that he would stay with her forever. Ellipsis. Madeline moved out. She did not dare face Jeremy. She was scared that he would hand her the divorce papers once more. Not to mention, she was also scared that he would try to do everything he could to kill the baby in her stomach for Meredith's sake. She had thought that Jeremy would ask about her after she moved out. However, a few days passed, and he never called her. It was obvious that he had not been home for those few days. He must have been with Meredith, living their best lives. At the thought of this, Meredith looked at the ring she had drafted. Consequently, her vision became blurry. Back then, she had accepted the order from a client. They had asked her to create a pair of matching rings. When she first started having feelings for Jeremy, she had had this pair of rings in her mind. She had imagined meeting him once more, falling in love, and eventually getting married. Then, he would put the ring she had designed herself on her own ring finger by himself. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, that promise turned into ashes. Madeline wiped away her tears and recomposed herself to continue working on her draft. However, she received a call from the psychiatric hospital where her only family member in the world was living. She rushed over, and the nurse told her that her grandfather had cancer. It was lung cancer. It was treatable but required very expensive surgery. Madeline sliced an apple for Len Samuels and handed it to him. "Grandpa, have an apple." Even though Len was mentally ill, he looked benevolent and kind. He took the apple from Madeline. "Evelyn, you're here." Madeline nodded and smiled. Evelyn was her real name. As for her surname, she had no idea. Ever since she could remember, she had no parents. She only had a mentally ill grandfather. Madeline had thought that she would be the one mourning for her grandfather when he returned to the maker. However, from the looks of the current situation, she would leave before Len. Madeline checked the price for the surgery and found that she needed about $300,000 to treat second-stage lung cancer. Seeing the number, the light in Madeline's eyes slowly began to fade away. She felt as if her heart was being trapped by a net. It only became tighter and tighter, making it harder for her to breathe. $300,000. How would she get so much money? Nonetheless, when she thought about her grandfather passing away because she did not have enough money for his treatment, tears blurred her vision. The pain of losing a loved one was so suffocating that it made it hard for her to breathe. Nevertheless, the expensive cost of treatment made Madeline fall into another state of despair. Eventually, when she was about to lose all hope, she remembered Jeremy. He was her only hope. Madeline went to look for Jeremy immediately. The man looked as refined as always. He was sitting at his desk reading a few documents. He did not even lift his head. When he heard that Madeline wanted to loan $300,000 from him, he burst out laughing. "Madeline, money is just a number for me. However, I won't give you a single cent." Madeline gritted her teeth and continued pleading. "My grandpa has lung cancer, and he needs the money for his treatment. Jeremy, please, loan me the money. I'll definitely pay you back." "Pay me back? With what?" He knew she did not have the ability to pay him back. However, he suddenly said, "I can loan you the money, but you have to agree to what I asked that day." Madeline clenched the corner of her shirt. He wanted Meredith to take her position. Consequently, she would become his mistress. Madeline suppressed the pain in her heart. She tried her best to stay calm. "Jeremy, aside from that, I can agree to anything." Jeremy slammed his documents shut and stood up. His eyes were icy. "Aside from that, don't even think about getting a single cent." When Madeline saw that he was about to leave, she no longer cared about anything. She grabbed his arm. "Jeremy, please help my grandpa. We can't delay his treatment." Jeremy chuckled lowly. There was no warmth in his eyes. "So what? What does that have to do with me?" Madeline felt a chill on her back. All of a sudden, the man in front of her looked oddly foreign and cold-blooded. As Madeline's mind wandered, she felt pain in her chin. When she came back to her senses, her eyes were met with Jeremy's sinister eyes. His eyes and eyebrows looked delicate, however, there was sense of mockery in them. For the sake of myrrh, I'll give you an alternative. Since you want money so much, you can sell your body. $300,000 shouldn't be a problem with your face. He pushed her away and walked away carefreely. His icy words hammered on Madeline's heart. The tumor in her body started to act up once more. She pressed on where the tumor was and took out a painkiller before swallowing it. The man's cold words were still ringing in her ears as she tried her best to swallow her tears. Madeline gritted her teeth and stood up. He was right. Under the current circumstances, she could only sell her body for her grandfather. However, she neither entertained customers nor sold her body. Instead, she walked into every private room in the nightclub with red wine that had been given to her by the manager. The customers who visited the place were pretty generous, especially when they were faced with beautiful girls. Madeline normally did not put on any makeup or doll herself up. She always looked clean and simple. However, that night, she was different from her usual self. The customers looked at Madeline's pretty face that resembled nature itself and spent their money on her willingly. Madeline only had one last bottle of wine in her hands. The manager saw that she was pretty good at it, so he gave her the most expensive alcohol in the shop and then sent her to the VIP room. He told her that the richest customers were all in that room. If she sold that bottle, she would receive $100,000 as commission. The number swayed Madeline. Thus, despite feeling unwell and reluctant to go, when she thought that her grandfather would be able to receive treatment soon, she swallowed a painkiller and went. Nonetheless, the moment she opened the door, she saw a face that made her heart skip a beat. Jeremy was leaning against the sofa lazily. He looked cold and conceited like a monarch. He had a domineering air to him that elicited fear in people's hearts. At the same time, Meredith was also in the room. Madeline had not expected Jeremy to be the richest customer that night. Her body initially felt numb when she took the painkiller. However, it was starting to hurt. Madeline did not want to humiliate herself, so she decided to leave. "Madeline, I didn't expect you to sell yourself for real." The man's cold voice was laced with mockery. Madeline's bones ached when she heard that. The next instant, Meredith walked up to her. "Maddie, it's you. Why are you here?" Madeline wanted to puke when she saw Meredith's hypocritical face. "I'm different from you guys. You guys have come here to have fun, while I'm here to make money." "Make money? Madeline, why have you become so depraved? Aren't you simply embarrassing Jeremy by doing this? You can tell me if you need money. How can you sell your body?"